All right, I'm going to show you guys how to do the dovetail joint. As you get yourself ready, make sure you've got some of these bits of equipment, have them all handy, ready to go. Bench hook, tenon saw. I've got two chisels, a 19mm and a 12mm. Sharp pencil. I brought the sharpener because I've got to keep it sharp. Tri-square, mallet, ruler. I've got my two bits of timber there. I've got my workshop plans here. We're doing the dovetail, the single dovetail. There's two sizes there, a 3 and a 7. So I've actually grabbed two marking gauges. I've set one at 3 and one at 7. It'll actually help me having two rather than having to keep changing the size all the time. So what we do is we start off with our two bits of timber. First of all, we need to mark the thickness of the timber that is going to join to the other piece. So the easiest way to do that is place that flush with the end there, get your sharp pencil, put a little mark, and I'll actually transfer that mark all the way around my timber. So that's marked all the way around. I'm going to zoom in for this next bit. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So this is where we use the marking gauge. So according to the workshop plan, the dovetail, there we are. The dovetail has a narrow dimension here of 3. The wider part of the dovetail has a dimension of 7. So we just marked the thickness of this bit of timber down here. We're actually going to start with the dovetail. Okay, so this dark piece of timber is our first bit of timber. So what I just did is mark that line that marks the thickness of that second piece. That's what we got there. So the marking gauge, that's set at 7. Its dimension is in here, close to the line. I'll try and... So I don't need much of a mark, just a bit of a light scratch. I don't know whether you can see that. I'll flip it around. I'll do that on both sides. I'll do that on both sides in both corners. Right, now we grab the other marking gauge. This one's set at 3, and the 3 gets marked up here. So again, I'm not doing a full line, I'm just putting a little mark in the corner. Hopefully you can see that. So I'll do that both sides, both corners. And in fact, when I've got this marking gauge in my hand, I am going to scratch. Hopefully you can see, I'll try and hold that. I'm going to scratch across the end grain there. Hopefully you can see where my scratch lines up with my little mark here. I'll do the same over here. Now, I'll get my ruler. I've got this mark intersecting with the line, this mark intersecting with the end. I'm going to hold my ruler on the angle and trace a line. Do that over here as well. Flip it over, do the same over here. So always a good idea, if you put your pencil in the mark, then move the ruler to touch the pencil. And, well, where am I? Oh, this is nuts. I'm also going to scratch a pencil mark through that scratch that I did with the marking gauge. So that's our marking out. We are in fact going to cut away this section. So that's why I've put the X's there to remind me. All right, so we need to begin cutting this dovetail. That's it there. We need to be really accurate on our cut here. This will be the shoulder of the dovetail. So I'm going to use the tenon saw to do that. Place that in place. Now, when you cut, don't cut through the line, cut next to the line, on the waist side of the line. I know which is the waist side of the line because I put the X's there. So we're going to cut. You can probably guess how far down I need to cut here. So I'm checking front and back as I go. Just a little bit further. That shouldn't take long. Flip it over, we'll do the other side. Okay, I use my thumb as a bit of a guide to stop the saw sliding over my line. Remember, I want to cut right next to the line. Okay, I'm going to show you two methods to do the second cut here. So we've just done those two cuts. You can see where I stopped. Yeah, so the first method I'll use the tenon saw to cut this away. On the other one, I'll simply use the chisel. So, again, going to cut next to the line. In fact, I'm just going to stay 0.5 millimetre away from the line. So if anything, my dovetail will end up too big. So check front and back to make sure you're cutting at a 90-degree angle to the timber. That piece falls away. This other one, I'm going to show you the other method that you can use. You guys can have a go at both, and then you can see which one you like the best. So I'm going to chisel that. So I'm not trying to chisel it all in one go, taking about 0.5 millimetre cut at a time. A little bit more. Notice that I'm just tapping the mallet, the chisel with the mallet. Now, I'm nearly at my line. You should be able to simply tap the mallet through. So, keep an eye on the line you marked. Alright, I'm very close to the line. Now I put my mallet down. Notice where I've got my hands. You can't see a thing on this. I must apologise. Okay. What you didn't see me do was a little bit at a time I was chiselling down until I got close to my line. Now I put the mallet down. Keeping an eye on the line that I've got marked there, I'm simply going to, it's called paring, and we're just shaving the timber down until I meet the line. A little bit at a time. Okay, make sure your fingers are behind the blade. Hopefully you can see where my hands are. And you should be able to just push the chisel through. So it's important that your chisel's sharp. I can run across too. Okay, so you should be very accurately be able to shave that. There you go. I think I've met my line. This one I cut with a saw. It is also going to need shaving or paring. So take your time. Tiny, really thin cuts. You do not want to try a big deep cut. Okay, there's what I've done. You can actually see I've still got half my line left on there, and that's actually a good idea to do that. All right, so that's the dovetail. I'm going to stop this video here. This will be part one. Part two we'll do it's called the pins, the part that connects into the dovetail. Looks like I went a bit deep with the marking gauge here. It's left a bit of a mark in the timber, so it's a bit of a shame.